Hello everyone. Today we shall start with the Python basics. Here we are into our Jupyter notebook. Okay, I have just renamed the file name as basics. Okay, let us start with our cell. To make a heading, we'll just select the cell. Just click the drop down of code. Like you can select the markdown. You can put single hash or double hash, and you can write. Suppose I'll start with the topic called numbers. I'll write numbers and I'll press shift enter. Okay, then you'll be able to make a heading like this, and then you can make some code, or you can write some code and execute. For example, suppose we want to find the addition, subtraction, and all those arithmetic operations. Suppose I'll write 5 plus 6. Okay, we'll get some addition. Suppose I want to find 12 minus 3, right? We have this particular 9. Suppose I wanted to multiply 5 into 6, it is 30. Suppose I want to divide 30 divided by 4 or something, we get some decimal point which is 7.5. Okay, suppose I wanted to divide 30 30 modulus 4. Okay, this is nothing but modulus operator. Okay, which helps us to find the remainder. Okay, I'll write modulo operator or mod operator. It helps us to find remainder. Okay, and as normal division, it could yield in float decimal, or you could say float or decimal values. Similarly, if you want some power, or you could say exponential. Suppose I want to write 2 power 3, I'll write 2 double asterisk 3. You could see it is 8, right? Similarly, you could write certain operations using numbers, using parentheses also. For example, I'll write 2 plus 3 in the parenthesis, right? I'll multiply it with maybe 5 plus 8 something. Okay, if I execute, you could see that we have the multiplication applicable, right? And let us see few more operations. For example, uh, like here we have certain operations like, okay, let us discuss about the topic called variables. Okay, I'll just name that heading. I'll just click on the markdown. I'll just name it as variables. Okay, so we'll talk about variables. Variables is nothing but a container, or you could say a value a value or a name or a particular text which could hold a particular data, or you could say values, set of values. So there are few rules for this particular variables. First rule is names cannot start with underscore. Okay, or you could say name can start with underscore, but name cannot start with a number. Okay, and we can start with can use underscore. Okay, few more things are, there can be no spaces in name. Be no spaces in name. Next thing is good, we cannot use symbols. Okay, so in variables we cannot use different symbols, and also we have to try avoiding keywords. Avoid keywords. Okay, so these are few things which you could keep in mind before using variables. For example, suppose I have 5 pens, I'll write my pens is equal to 5. Okay, suppose if I search for my pens value as a variable, you could get the output of 5, right? Similarly, you could suppose you can save multiple values in a list. For example, I have maybe I have different flowers. Okay, I'll write flowers equal to, I'll make a list. I'll write rose. I'll make a flower called jasmine. I'll make a flower called sunflower, right? So similarly I have set of flowers which I can make it into a list and store it in a variable. Okay, if I call that particular flowers variable, all I could see is this particular list output. Okay, we'll talk about list, tuples, dictionary, set, and all other things in a meanwhile, but let us understand these things as a part of basics, right? Suppose I want to find the type of this particular flowers. So we have a type function which is type. I'll write flowers, right? So you could see the type is a list. Similarly, you could find the type of my pens variable which I have created. You could see that it is an int type, right? Integer type. Suppose I create a variable called a. I'll assign a value called 10. Okay, and if I check the value of a, it will be 10. What I can do is I can reassign the values of the same variable again. Suppose I'll write a equal to a plus 20. Again, if I check a, what happens is it will change the value to 30. Okay, suppose if I change the value that a is equal to a plus a. Now if I enter a, you could see a value is 60. Okay, so the number of times you run that command, what happens is the value keeps on changing. The reason is this a particular a value, it will be keeping on updated by getting replaced into the same values. Okay, so that is how a variable stores a particular value, and you should make use it wisely, and there should be a proper conscious decision to be made. Let us understand few more variables. For example, I receive a salary of maybe 10,000. Okay, so I might read need to pay a tax of 10%. So I'll write 10%. Okay, so suppose if I want to find out net salary. Okay, net salary. So the calculation would be my salary multiplied by tax, right? And if I see the output of salary, you could the 10%, instead of mentioning the 10%, you could mention it as point 0.1, right? And if you execute, you could see the net salary is okay. My salary into tax, right? I need, this is the tax amount, right? I need to subtract that my salary minus my salary into tax. So you could see the net salary is 9,000, right? Similarly, we can make such calculations using variables, right? And you could perform various calculations by using certain variables. Let us further explore the another topic, which is strings. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just mark down. Okay, I'll just note it as strings, right? Let us explore the strings. Suppose I want to mention a string. What I can do is I can mention it in a single quotes. Like I can mention hello world, right, in single quotes. It will print, give the output of hello world in single quotes. Suppose I want, I can even enter the string in double quotes as well. It will still give the same output in single quotes as hello world. Suppose our word consists of a single quote. For example, I'll write this single quote. I'll write I don't like the vehicle. Okay, so this is a particular sentence where I have this particular apostrophe in this word called don't. If I execute, you could see there will be a error. Okay, the reason is it there is this particular single quote, it will stop the execution, or it won't be able to execute properly. So in order to avoid that, either what we can do is we can put a backslash over here so that it could show the respective output within double quotes, or else what we can do is we can use this particular way of input, right? You put this double quotes at the ends and inside you can put the single quote so that there is a clear distinction between these two things, then you could get the respective output correctly, right? These are the two ways where you can handle this apostrophe. Okay, one more thing is, for example, there are two particular strings. Suppose I'll write this is first line, okay, and I'll write this is second line, and if I execute, you could see only the second line is given as the output, right? Shown as the output. Suppose if I want to showcase both the lines, what we need to do is we can just use our print function behind it, right? If you use this print, we can print a number of lines in one particular cell. Here you could see that we'll be able to use this print function and then we are able to print these two lines within the same cell, right? Let us understand one more thing. There is something called escape sequence. Okay, suppose I'll copy this print right here. Suppose this before the first line, suppose I'll write something called as backslash n. Okay, so this backslash n, what it does is it will take this particular word to the next line. Similarly, if I show here, I'll put the backslash n again over here. So what happens is it will take this particular words to the next line. Here you could see that this is in the first line, this is the second line. For the next print, it is the third and fourth lines. So this space, it will be caused by this particular space. You could remove that, and if you execute, you could see they are aligned, right? But they are in all different lines. So this backslash n, it is a escape sequence, or you could say new line keyword where you could enter into that new line, right? Suppose I want to find out a length of a particular string. I can use this length function, right? Suppose I wanted to find length of hello world. So if I execute, you could see that hello world has 11 characters, and you could see that space is also being counted, right? Space is also included while you calculate that length function. Let us move ahead and understand few more things about indexing and slicing. Okay, suppose I'll select this cell, click on this markdown, right? I'll just give the topic called as indexing and slicing. Okay, let us create a variable. Suppose I'll create a variable called my string. Okay, this my string, I'll just give some random name called new catalog or something. You can just I'm just giving a random word. Suppose I wanted to print my string. What I can do is I can just take this new string and I can show something, right? Suppose I wanted to find the first letter. So what I can do is I can write my string, and in the square brackets I can enter 0. If I enter 0, you could see it will give me the first character. Suppose if I want some fifth character, what I can do is I can just enter 5 instead of this particular value, right? You could see this is a fourth, this is 3 4 5, and this is the sixth character which is given the output. Here in the Python, you could see that first character, it starts from 0 in the beginning, and then it will progress as 1 2 and so on. Okay, and in this indexing you can come from right side also. If you come from right side, you need to have that negative indexing. Like for example, in the square brackets I'll put -1. If you execute, you could see that it will show me the character called E, right? In the new catalog, you could see that last character is E. So similarly, it will start from -2 minus, let's say -1 -2 and so on. Okay, suppose there is a bunch of characters. For example, I'll take a new string called I'll take my string is equal to, in the single quotes I'll give that alphabets a b c d e f g h I j k l, so or something like that. Okay, suppose I want the string from the second character. Okay, second, from second character till end. So till end, how we represent is by putting a colon over here, right? Again we'll close the parenthesis. If we execute, you could see it starts from second character 0 1 2. From second character from C till end we'll be able to get that particular string, right? Suppose we want uh, we want a string in till the second characters. Okay, second till the 2. So what we can do is I'll put colon, I'll hit 3. Okay, if I execute, you could see there are these three characters like 0 1 and 2, right? We have three characters. I'll just put 3 because this one it is not included till before it 0 1 2 we'll get the output. And starting we need not provide as 0. It could it would by default take it from the beginning, right? So we'll move ahead and understand particular values. For example, if you want to print this def, so how we write is my string. Okay, d starts with particular third character. I'll write 3. We need to print till f, right? So I need three characters, right? So I'll put 6. So what it does is it will iterate. It will start from 3, this is 4, and this is 5. So it prints till f and it then stops. So I'll just execute, you could see that it prints def, right? Suppose you want to start from 1 and you want to stop till 3. So you can write something like my string, you can start from 1 and you can stop till 3, right? You'll get something like bc. Similarly, you can understand that if you want to print all the letters of the string, what you can do is you can directly either write my string and execute. If you want to press enter colon, it will give the all the necessary output in a string, right? So these are in indexing we have seen these two particular parameters, and there is something called a step. Okay, so we'll understand the step. For example, I'll write my string. Okay, I'll put double colon, I'll put something something called 2. If I execute, you could see that it will take the first character, it will skip that the next character, it will move on to the other character C, it will skip D, and it will move on to the other character E, and so on, right? This is something called as step. Okay, so similarly we could even reverse a particular values, right? For example, I'll take my string. Suppose I wanted to reverse it. So what I can do is I can put double colon, I can put -1. So what it does is it will reverse print, right? You could see that it will print from L to A. So these things, these are few manipulations which could be done, or you could say which could be done while indexing. For example, we have seen all these, right? Suppose for any particular function, in order to understand the particular step size, or you could say to count that particular step size, we need to find the necessary output and make the changes accordingly. Let us you know understand something called as immutability. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just take a variable and try to utilize it by using few things. For example, I'll just make it as a markdown, right? So So first thing what we need to understand is strings are immutable. Okay, suppose we have the string, right? For example, I have the string, uh, you know my string we have, right? Or else I'll create one more string called my name. Okay, suppose I'll write my name Pavan. Okay, and if I want to find something like, you know my name 0, right? If you see this, my first letter, you could say it is P, right? Suppose that letter I wanted to change it to some you know yes. Okay, I'll write it to change it to S. And if I try to execute, you could see that strings are immutable. Okay, so string object does not support item assignment. This is the error which you could face. So in order to avoid it, what you can do is, so we can what we can do is we can write a variable, right? What we can do is, from my name, I'll open the square brackets. We have seen indexing, right? From first character I want till last characters. So what I can do is I can assign it to this last characters, right? If I print that last letters, you could see that, you know I have AVAN. Now what I can do is I can concatenate this particular S letter with last letters, right? So so this is how, the name, the particular item could be changed. So directly strings are immutable, but this is another way how you could concatenate and make some changes accordingly, right? Let us see few more things. For example, we can concatenate strings. Okay, so suppose I'll create a variable called X. I'll just mention something like hello and space. I'll just put a single quote, and we have particular, my name variable, right? So I can write X plus my name. So if I execute, you could see this, hello Pavan, right? We are able to concatenate strings. This my name is defined over here, so it could take that particular variable till here, right? Suppose if I want to, repeat it multiple times, or let us take a variable again. I'll take a letter, something like Z or Z. So if I want to repeat it 10 times, okay, what I can do is I can just multiply it with 10, right? If I execute, you could see that Z is multiplied, repeated 10 times. Okay, this strings, it could be concatenated, as we could see earlier, right? Strings could be concatenated, whereas numbers, we have seen the addition, right? If the numbers are present in string format, suppose I am trying to concatenate, 2 and 8, which is in string format. If I execute, you could see the string would not add it, but it would, just concatenate it and make another number, right? So this is a string, yet since it is in single quotes, this is also a string, right? Okay, let me introduce you to few basic methods where we will deal with this particular strings. For example, I have this particular my name variable. I'll put, my name dot upper, right? You could see that my name is printed in, capital letters. Similarly, I'll put lowercase. I'll put dot lower. You could see that it is printed in, lowercase. Okay, I'll just create one more variable. Suppose I'll create variable called A, and I'll write a sentence. Okay, I'll write a sentence called, this book is a good book, or something like that. Okay, suppose I wanted to split this particular variable. What I can do is I can write a dot split. We have this split method where we could split based upon the space. By default it will consider the space. So what happens is, using a space, this would be split into multiple words in a list. Okay. So similarly, what we can do is we can split by particular alphabet also. Suppose wherever we get this I, if we want to split it based upon the I letter, I can write a dot split. In the parenthesis, I can write something called I within single quotes. If I execute, you could see that wherever this I is present, the data is being split over there, right? So similarly, we have these three particular uh, like use cases. But similarly, wherever you want to split by based upon a particular alphabet or character, you can split it. Suppose you want to print something. As I have shown earlier, we have the print function, right? I can write hello world, right? If you execute here, you could see that you won't be able to see that string, but it is a string, right? Now if I try to find out that what is the output of that hello world, you could see that it is none type, right? So you could understand that print results in none type. Okay, let us understand few more things about strings, and then later we'll discuss about all the other things like list, dictionaries, tuples and sets. Here we'll understand. Hello everyone, let us continue with the strings which we were discussing. Let us now understand that string interpolation. Okay, so here we have two different ways to do the string interpolation, or you could say formatting. Okay, the first way is by using the dot format. Okay, for example, if I want to print something, I'll write print. Okay, inside print I'll write, suppose this is a new sentence. Okay, I want to write something called this is a new sentence. So instead of like writing sentence, I'll give some curly braces, and I'll just end the sentence. I'll write dot format. Within the format, I'll open the parenthesis and provide the respective word which I wanted to provide, right? So this is how we could write that particular print statement. If I shift enter, you could see that this is a new sentence. Okay, similarly, if we have multiple words, okay, so all those words we can insert into that flower brackets using dot format. For example, I'll write print. Suppose I want to write a sentence called this is a good book or something like that. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll write this, you know I'll write, give some spaces, and I'll write this flower brackets. Okay, I have entered, three empty flower brackets, and I'll write dot format. In the parenthesis, I'll write whatever the words that I want. Suppose I'll write something, right? This book is good. So I'll write book, comma, is, comma, good. So if I shift enter, you could see that these respective words, they try to sequence wise, they try to align accordingly into the respective flower brackets assigned, right? This is how dot format will help us to print certain statements by just like a placeholders where it has particular place values. Okay, suppose okay, instead of writing this book is good, if I want to write something like this is good book, so what I can do is specify certain numbers. For example, I'll just copy this, and what I can do is, so our word is this book is good, right? This is good book, so I'll write 2 1 sorry, 3 and 1, right? If we execute this, Okay, instead of 1, we call it as 0, because in Python it starts from 0. Here we'll call it as 1, and we'll call it as 2. If I shift enter, you could see this is good book, right? We are able to print those words accordingly. So this is 0, right? This is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. So this is how we could respectively write in the format by the sequence, right? Let us see one more way how to utilize this format. Okay, while assigning it to the particular keywords, or you could say variables. So I'll just paste the same sentence. Suppose that I wanted to, instead of using this numbering, assign it to particular keywords. For example, I'll write b is equal to book, okay, and I is equal to is, and g is equal to good. So in this flower brackets, I'll write I, G, and B. Now if I execute, you could see that we'll get the same output, because we have this certain variables assigned for this particular values. So when we insert those values here, we'll get the same thing over here, right? So that we could get appropriate results. Okay, let us understand few more things. For example, if I type some value, okay, I'll type some value. If a is equal to 100 divided by, maybe we'll call it as 77, okay, and if we print a, you could see we have this particular decimal number, okay. And suppose that we want to insert this particular decimal number into our string, what we'll do is we shall write print the result is in this flower brackets. I'll write this particular string, where I'll write comma, sorry, dot format. In the parenthesis, I'll write result, right? Or else you could say a, right? If you execute, now you could see it will show the result in the complete, with all the decimal values. If at all I wanted to format it, for the 2 or 3 decimal values, I have a specific format. For example, here I'll write, okay, so I'll write this particular, I'll take this particular result into this particular variable, right, which is a. I'll write a colon, right, one, like the decimal on the left, you could say 1, and on the right side, if you want 3 decimals, I could say 3 and f. So this is the format for which we can utilize this particular output. So here we could shift enter. Okay, here what we are trying to do is this a, we are trying to fetch that variable data from this a, which is being created over here. So this is how we could put that particular value into this particular short format, or you could say we can round it off. Okay, so let us understand another format, for example, which we call it as f strings. Okay, this f strings format, it is just like, suppose we'll provide a name. Suppose I'll write a name called Pavan. Okay, so I wanted to print a statement, hi, my name is, okay. Instead of writing the name directly, what I can do is, usually I'll write format and name, right? This is how I write format and I'll write this name, right? If I execute, he could see that hi, my name is Pavan. So instead of writing this directly, if I want to use that f string, what I need is I'll just remove this, right? Instead of writing name over there, what I'll do is I'll write name within this, flower brackets, and before that single quotes, what I'll write is I'll put, f. This is how I put f before this single quotes, and within the flower brackets I'll write name, right? If I execute, here you could see hi, my name is Pavan. We are able to get the correct output, right? For example, if I have multiple values, suppose I'll take another variable which is age. Suppose I'll write 25. I'll write print hi. I'll write f, right? My name is name, and my age is, right. This is how we can execute. Here you could see that it will take that particular values by using this variables which is created by us, and we are trying to insert those variables within our curly braces. Okay, so this is how we could print, use the f strings, or you could say this f strings format in the strings in order to print, right? So let us understand few more things, right? For example, let us talk about the lists. I'll just mark down, I'll create list, and we shall talk about lists. So lists are ordered sequence of numbers, or I could say, not only objects, or you could say lists are ordered sequences to hold variety of objects. Okay, so this list, they support indexing and slicing. Okay, let us see few example. Suppose I'll create a list called my list. I'll insert, within the square brackets, I'll insert 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. Okay, if I write my list and, execute, here you could see that 1 2 3 4 are printed in while I execute my list. Okay, these are the values which are present in the square brackets, and we call it as a list. For example, I can change my list to multiple values. For example, I'll write 5.63 comma, I'll insert my name, right, comma, I'll insert a integer, right? I can insert multiple objects depending on the kind of, data we have. So for example, now I'll just hit enter, I'll print my list. You could see we are able to see the list accordingly. Suppose we want to find the length of the list, what I can do is I can write len, I can write my list, right? You could see that the length of the list is 3. Similarly, if we want, we know that slicing, right, or indexing. Suppose I want first value of my list. So what I can do is I'll write my list. I can put, 0 in the square brackets. You could get the first value of my list. Similarly, if I want, the rest of the values, what I can do is I'll write 1 colon, and I can put the square brackets, right? In this way we can get all the rest of the values. Similarly, suppose if I have two lists, for example, I'll create one more list, okay, which I have, I'll write my list 1 is equal to, suppose I'll create one more list. Here I'll put some more values, 8.68 comma 54. Okay, these are two values. And suppose I wanted to, add two lists. So what I can do is I can write new list is equal to my list plus my list 1, and now I'll print my new list. Here you could see the two new values which are provided, they are being appended within the same list, right? So we have some method called append. Suppose additionally I want to input more values into this particular list. What I can do is I can use some method called append. So what I'll write is I'll write new list dot append. I'll open the parenthesis. If you press shift tab, you'll be able to see this kind of information, right? Append object to the end of the list. So in the append I shall write particular values that I want to insert. Suppose I want to insert this particular my name like Sai. I'll write new list. If I execute, you could see it is also uh, like popping, right? If I could insert more values, just like I'll copy this. Instead of string, I'll insert multiple values, like maybe some more values. You could see that we are able to insert by using the append multiple values. Suppose if I want to remove this last value, so what I can do is I can remove last value by writing that new list dot pop. Okay, this pop method, what it does is it removes the items from the end, right? So if I write this new list dot pop and execute, here you could see this, you could see that last value is removed in this particular list, right? When you execute again, you could see that this is not no more existing, right? So this is how last value gets popped out. Suppose that you want to uh, pop out any particular indexed value. What you can do is you can write new list. Suppose I want to pop out the first value. So what I can do is I can write 0, right? Pop 0, and I can print the new list. If I execute, you could see that 5.63 has disappeared in the new output, right? Here we do not have that 5.63 in the beginning. So this is how pop will remove a particular values from the end. If you provide certain index value inside it, it will remove that particular item from the list. Okay, I hope it is understandable. Suppose here I'll create one more, I'll create a new list. Okay, in the parenthesis I'll give some random numbers, 8 comma 4 comma 3 comma 6 comma 1 comma 9, or some random numbers. Okay, suppose that I want to sort these numbers. So what I'll do is I'll write new list dot sort, right? And I'll showcase the new list. Here you could see it is now sorted, right? Similarly it works for the alphabets also, right? Or else you could particularly assign this particular new list dot sort into some other variable, and then you could print that particular sort list also. Okay, for example, what we can do is we can maybe this new list dot sort, I'll call it as sorted list. Okay, I'll write new list dot sort. If I I could, if I could see this sorted list type, you know here you could see that it will be of none type, right? So if you, even if you execute sorted list, here you could see no output because it is of none type. It does not give that particular output. All you need to see this new list, and it will be always in a sorted way because we have used that sort method, right? This is how we sort the values and showcase the output. For example, if we want to reverse this particular output, we have another method called as reverse. So we can write new list dot reverse, and open the parenthesis, and I can just print this new list. Here you could see I have reversed the numbers and I have printed that. So here you could see that our numbers are sorted in a descending order, or you could say in a reverse order. So these are few examples of lists, right? and then we shall continue with the other dictionaries, tuples and sets in the next video.